There's a lot of pain that comes with getting a divorce, especially when children are involved. And the financial burden could make things even worse.
Yeah, a few people get married preparing for a divorce, but the reality is that's how half of all marriages end. The rate is even higher for second and third marriages, with nearly 75% of couples getting divorced the third time around. All this comes, of course, at a cost emotionally and financially.
Yeah, and Ange Matthews is an investment expert and creator of the Happy Investor Method. She says all happily married women need to prepare for divorce just in case. Welcome to the show, Ange.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, let's jump right in. Where did you come up with this idea that happily married women should financially prepare themselves for a divorce?
Well, as mentioned, over half of marriages in this country end in divorce, and you don't know if yours is going to be it. Of course, we don't want it to happen, but it's better to have a plan and not need it than to need a plan and not have one.
Okay, and not just women, I assume all people, I guess, right? I mean, you gotta just leave all of us men out, is it right, or what?
Absolutely, everyone should be prepared for this. Even if it's not you, chances are it will be someone you love, whether that's your daughter or your family.
Okay. And so the idea of planning for it, it's not a natural thing, especially when you're happy. And some people might feel that it's kind of, I don't know, it's almost like a secretive thing. Like you're planning, you're not telling, what are you planning over there? You know what I mean? Like how do you balance that?
Well, I actually spoke to this about my husband, with my husband, and I told him that in the event we have a problem in our relationship, I would hate for us to be forced to stay together because of finances. We should stay together because of why we intended to make this union work in the first place. And when you think about it that way, you think about it as if you were building an emergency fund. Everyone talks about having an emergency fund, but no one wants the emergency to happen, but you're so happy to have one. This is why I think you should start thinking about your finances if something should happen to your relationship or your marriage, so that you're not trapped in one when you don't want to be there.
You put it so nicely where it doesn't sound too bad.
So this is the emergency fund. We got the car breaks down fund, and then we gotta go, separate fund. Right. Okay, got it.
All right, so you're going to share some tips that apply to all women, hopefully men too, including those who are currently not working or stay-at-home parents or moms or dads. So first, you suggest a universal life insurance policy. How does that work?
I suggest that because when you're thinking about insurance, a lot of people don't associate it as an investment vehicle. However, it is a vehicle that grows over time with interest. Now, when you're thinking about divorce and splitting up assets, typically speaking, life insurance policies don't get separated, they don't get divided. So that is something that you can continuously use throughout your life when you need access to money.
Okay. What about paying household bills? You know, when everything is happening, everything is great, things just get done. How should couples be splitting that up and why?
It's really natural for the woman to pay for childcare and for the male to pay for rent or for mortgage. However, I think it should be flipped. So the person who naturally wants to pay for something that's really easy for them, they shouldn't do it. So for women, typically they pay for childcare because if they were to stay at home, they would be taking care of the child. But because they're not, now they have to take their income to pay for childcare. And oftentimes in the relationship, it gets seen as a nice to have, as something that you don't have to pay for or shouldn't have to pay for, a choice for a woman to go back to work. So as a result, women should pay for mortgages. Typically speaking, the roof over your head is a really big thing to pay, but it's the same care as childcare. It's the same cost oftentimes.
Interesting.
You should also think about paying for bills versus groceries as a woman. So pay for the bills and electricity, utilities versus just groceries, because that will show your value.
Okay. So you also say that women need to keep track of their value and maybe even using a spreadsheet. What do you mean by that? And does that also apply if maybe a woman, gives up her career to raise her family or vice versa?
I think it applies so much, especially if you give up your career to provide for your parents or even your children. The reason why I say this is just because something is free doesn't mean that it doesn't have a cost. So if you're staying at home with the kids, typically daycare could run a family on average $4,000 a month, depending on what city you live in. And so if that's the case, you're not being compensated for that financially, but you are saving your family a lot of money. Same thing goes with cleaning, cooking, doing chores, vacation planning. These are all things that you should keep track of. And that's why we provide a value tracker on our website to help people understand if you were able to save this money or invest this money, it would be worth this in the future. And that's what you're foregoing.
Interesting stuff there. Ange, thank you so much for the time and speaking with us today and giving us some tips.
Thank you so much for having me. And of course, I want you to be happily married, but just prepared.
But just in case.
That emergency.
just in case. Ange, thank you so much for the time again. For more financial advice, you can follow Ange on Instagram at Happy Investor Method. You can also find a spreadsheet to help keep track of your value at her website.